I've had customers come to the deli who've told me that they've either traveled to Uzbekistan, and I've asked them, have you seen the sheep? And they've answered very excitedly yes. And we've both agreed that they have really unique physiques, but they're delicious and they're fantastic. And I think Australia definitely needs these big-assed sheep.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. It's the summer series on Deep in the Weeds, and today we catch up with one of our favourite guests of 2025 to hear some yarns from her life in food abroad. Myra Karakelle, how are you?
Thank you for having me back, Huck.
Oh, it's awesome to get you on the show. It's such an amazing episode that we had early in 2025. You shared some pretty amazing stories. How have things been since we last caught up?
Wilder. I think the best answer is wilder. I think when we caught up, the second location hadn't opened, or we were in the midst of opening. So that's now been accomplished, thankfully. So we're tackling two venues and trying to be in two places at once, trying to understand two very different postcodes, two very different palettes. It's been quite a learning curve, but we have some more tricks up our sleeve for next year. So it's been good.
Well, as we discussed on the show, you have an amazing and very unique offering, making sandwiches, which doesn't sound very unique, but leaning into the heritage of both of your parents. Do you have any sort of wonderful stories from traveling abroad that you can share with us today?
Look, I've definitely had some learning curves of my own personally with my own culture whilst traveling. When you tapped me on the shoulder about this series, I immediately thought of a few traumatic food moments that have stuck with me. So those are things I definitely want to share with you, but they are kind of splattered across the world. Thankfully, I was fortunate enough to have these experiences while traveling. So I've got like some funny places with some funny food and funny stories.
Cool. Well, I can't wait to hear them. Do you want to start one up for us?
Absolutely. I think the most memorable one would be, as you know, I am partially from Uzbekistan. So we've always traveled to Uzbekistan growing up, but the fondest memory I have going to Uzbekistan as an adult, like I just turned, I think, 18 or 19. It was just after 18, just after the HSC. I went to Uzbekistan with my mum, and we were at a wedding. They're very elaborate, very glamorous gatherings. We were all seated in this beautiful venue. The tables constantly had waiters coming and putting, plates of food, which is very, very common in a like Uzbek celebration. And growing up in Australia, I wasn't exposed to cold cuts. Cold cuts, which is now something that we focus a lot at the deli, was just something that we never really had growing up in Australia, right? Because it was usually pork and I don't eat pork. So we're at this wedding, all these plates are coming, and they have all these different meats and cheeses and dried nuts. And I know that obviously I can eat everything there because I'm in Uzbekistan. So there was one particular cured meat that took my attention, and I had a few slices of it. And then my mom just like quietly tapped me on the shoulder and said, maybe don't eat too much of that. Just let your stomach get used to it. And I thought, what a strange thing to say, maybe because it's a cold cut meat and we don't eat like a lot of cold cut meats. And I said, why? What is it? Like what's not even what is it? My question was, what's wrong with it? Like what's going to happen to me if I eat too much of it? And she said, well, it's horse. And I stopped eating it then. But she said it was horse meat. And I didn't know this. I learned this about my own culture at the age of 18, that in Uzbekistan, horse meat is a type of cold cut. It's a cured meat and it looks very much like salami or pepperoni. And it was spiced and it was really nice. I don't want to say it was nice, but it was nice. But I don't condone it. And now I've never had it since because it just didn't sit right with me personally. But I can say that I have tasted it. I enjoyed it. I was ignorant in knowing what it was, but that was a learning curve about my own culture and our own diet that I wasn't aware of. So that's something that I'll never quite forget. It's one of those things that sticks with you. I don't participate in the Melbourne Cup. I'm very I feel a very particular way, but this is a stain on my conscience that I live with. So that's one fun.
I think last time we caught up, you talked about how you sort of travelled throughout that region. Do you have any other stories from that sort of region of where you've sort of learnt lessons with different cultures or with food?
Definitely. That was probably the most traumatic. The others are less traumatic. Definitely less traumatic. I we were traveling in Uzbekistan and would visit a lot of family and a lot of friends, and everyone, of course, they they feed you everywhere you go. The entire purpose is for you to see them and for them to feed you. And it's so wonderful when you go. You come back 10 kilos heavier, your cholesterol's through the roof, but it's all fantastic food, so it's always worth it. And we were near the mountains once, and there was a flock of sheep, and there was a shepherd just kind of letting his sheep graze. But the sheep, they looked like they all had BBLs. The sheep in Uzbekistan all have really fat butts, and it is it's something like I can't explain. They are bred like that. They have like Wagyu butt sheep there. It's just these normal sheep who have ginormous asses, and it's all fat. But even more interestingly is any kebab that you have, any skewer, any incredible Uzbek pulav that you have, they will make sure that that fat is cut into little cubes and inserted into the food. So you could have a beautiful skewer of kebab, but every few cubes will be that fat that just oozes onto the meat and makes it so tender and so soft. It's Wagyu butt sheep. That's what it is. And I didn't know that that existed, but it's so strange looking at them because they all have huge asses, but they're delicious. And I've never seen anywhere else in the world. We it was they This is the extent to which they use this fat. Like it is very, very much utilized. Because Uzbeks are resourceful people. But we had gone to a house that, and a lot of the houses there, especially in my parents' city, they have tandurs. But the tandurs are not in the ground; they're actually like in the walls. It's very hard to describe, but they'll build their backyards and they'll have a wall that has a tandoor built into it, and that's where you bake the bread, and that's where you bake the samsa. And if you've ever seen Uzbek bread, they're round and thick, and they are kind of like concaved, but they will sometimes put bits of that fat in the bread, which is so unnecessary, but so damn delicious. And it's all thanks to this huge assed sheep. And that's their breed. That's how no one's herding these sheep. That's just how they're made. That's how they're bred. But it is very, very delicious. And it is a type of meat fat that I don't think I've ever had anywhere else in the world. But when you see them, it's quite a spectacle. It looks really strange. It looks very, very strange. But just imagine a sheep, it suddenly just goes like this. So that was something that I'd seen that I really had to question and understand why they looked very different to all the pictures of the sheep that I'd ever seen. And I've had customers come to the deli who've told me that they've either traveled to Uzbekistan or they've know someone who's been there, and I've asked them, "Have you seen the sheep?" And they've answered very excitedly, "Yes." And we've both agreed that they have really unique physiques, but they're delicious and they're fantastic. And I think Australia definitely needs these big assed sheep because they're delicious. So that's another one. Uzbekistan's got a lot of fun things. Um, the first and only time that I'd been to Kyrgyzstan, my uncle was living there at the time, and I'd gone to visit him, and he took me to a restaurant, and you just understood how much that part of the world, how they I don't know, like from farm to table, they really do take it seriously, and it's not an act that I think they're very I don't think they do it with a certain aim to be able to say that they're resourceful. They are just resourceful people. That is just the way that they've always grown food or eaten food or made use of their resources. But we went to a restaurant. It was a restaurant, but they farmed the salmon in the restaurant. And when you would enter the restaurant, you'd actually enter this like lake, and you would fish for the salmon. That you would enter the restaurant, and you were handed a fishing pole and a basket, and they only served salmon. That was what this restaurant offered, and you would fish for your food, for your lunch. So they would give you a pole, and I'd never fished in my life, but it was fairly easy. It's just a lake of salmon. But I don't know how they farmed it. It's a bit questionable now, but they you'd just go and you'd catch it, and you'd catch however many you needed. You'd put it in the basket. The waiter would then come, they would weigh it, and then they'd cook it for you, and you would pay according to the weight of the salmon that you caught. And I thought that was pretty clever. I've never had something so fresh. The freshest I've had is at the Chinese restaurants when they take it out of the tank. But it was eye-opening. It was eye-opening to see.
Yeah, absolutely. When we caught up, you talked about how important turkey has become in your life as well. Do you have any stories about turkey?
Yeah, turkey had a lot of things. I think, what would be the weirdest thing that I ever experienced in Turkey? Yeah, there's a type of kebab there, and you really need to know what it is before you go there and you blindly eat it like I did. And it sounds interesting, but it's a delicacy, and it's so popular there. A lot of people love it. Personally, I can't say I do, but it's definitely worth trying if you have the stomach for it. It's a kebab and bear with me, it's made in the intestines. So it's a whole lot of offal. They'll get the intestines, they'll clear it out. It's then used as like the casing for the meats that they cook up, and then they wrap the meat in that intestine casing. And the weirdest thing is the name. So get ready for this. The name should put you off. And this is no disrespect to the Turkish community. I'm married to one, so I'm kind of allowed to say this, but the name is very off-putting. To make things worse, it's called kokoreç, which sounds very familiar to something else. So it's not the most appetizing thing to hear, but it is so popular. They freaking love it over there. I think it's usually enjoyed after a big night. But it's a funky kebab. It's a really funky kebab. It's worth having once. Maybe it's better if you don't know what it is before you have it, but it's just a whole lot of offal. It's very interesting. There are so many beautiful kebabs. I don't know why there's a need for that one, but people love it there. So no disrespect to it. I think the most beautiful kebab I ever had personally in Turkey was a cherry kebab. I thought it was absolutely magnificent. It's in a city called in Istanbul, in an area called Kadıköy, and there's a very famous chef there. He was on Chef's Table, and then the restaurant name is Chia, and his whole purpose is to bring the forgotten foods of Turkey to his restaurant, using a lot of traditions that have been forgotten or very, very, very dated. But it was a cherry kebab, and it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever eaten. It was very seasonal. There were the little sour cherries. When you can have a kebab like that, why do you need the other one? But each to their own. But I think it's important. I think it's important to experience these things. If I can eat horse, I can eat some offal. I no longer eat either of them, by the way. For the record, before I'm judged heavily.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't know what we'd be in for today, and but you've delivered as you did last time we caught up. Can't wait to do it again. Love those stories. I think I might be with you. I think the cherry kebab might be more of a hit for me as well. Please keep in touch, Myra, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you so much, Huck. Thank you for having me and for letting me share this trauma with you.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Stay safe and be well.